been more than 2 decades since gamers first entered the World of Warcraft. Blizzard's fantasy real-time strategy about the bloody struggle between orcs and humans has since left the confines of not just its genre, but its medium as well. After an MMORPG and a collectible card game, fans recently got the chance to experience the story of Warcraft on the silver screen. Warcraft is now a household name, and without a doubt, one of the biggest gaming franchises in the world. With the latest World of Warcraft expansion, Legion, due this August, we at GVMERS wanted to look back at the evolution of the series, from its humble beginnings to its countless expansions. The first entry in the series, Warcraft, Orcs and Humans, launched in 1994 for PC. Despite not being the first RTS game of its kind, Warcraft built upon the popular formula previously established by Dune 2. However, instead of just limiting itself to building bases, armies, and destroying the enemy faction, Warcraft had various objectives in its campaign, like rescuing prisoners of war or liberating towns. This variety in gameplay was backed up by a rich story detailing the invasion of Draenor's bloodthirsty orcs upon the human world of Azeroth. The game also featured competitive 2-player online mode, which Blizzard would only build upon further as the series continued.
The once mighty army of Azeroth lay among the blackened and charred remains of Stormwind Keep. Those that escaped fled across the Great Sea, bringing tales of the suffering they had faced at the hands of the Orcish hordes.
The struggle between the two factions continued the following year with the release of Warcraft 2, Tides of Darkness. After suffering defeat at the hands of the Orcish horde and losing Azeroth, the humans retreat to the Kingdom of Lordaeron and prepare for the next invasion. The most notable improvements to the game were the addition of new units that took the battle to the air and sea, adding new strategies and options for players. Warcraft 2 was supplemented by the expansion Beyond the Dark Portal, which added 2 new campaigns, new multiplayer maps, and a new tile set for the swamp-filled Draenor. After a long wait, gamers finally got their hands on Warcraft 3, Reign of Chaos in 2002. For the first time in this series, players got to choose from 2 additional factions, the Undead and the Night Elves. Warcraft 3 maintained its series' emphasis on story and varied objectives, but also added light RPG elements that let heroes grow and unlock new abilities over the course of the campaign or a multiplayer match. Only a year later, Blizzard released an expansion titled The Frozen Throne, which continued the base game's story with a new campaign for each faction, added new units, heroes, and improved upon the balance of the multiplayer. Warcraft 3's legacy echoed farther than just the series. The game came bundled with a world editor that allowed the creation of custom maps and even custom game modes. In addition to the plethora of tower defense modes, the editor gave birth to Defense of the Ancients, which is considered the biggest influence for the MOBA genre, and which Blizzard would revisit themselves to a certain extent in Heroes of the Storm many years later. In 2004 marked the release of the biggest name in the MMORPG space, World of Warcraft. Rather than commanding armies, players were now part of the action. Gamers took up the banner of either Horde or Alliance and chose a race and class for their character. They would then embark on an epic quest across Azeroth, doing quests that range from menial boar slaying to epic fights with the biggest names of Warcraft lore. Players could even encounter opposing factions in the world and fight them. World of Warcraft's success set a new standard for MMO gaming. Attempts to dethrone it have led various companies to creating WoW killers, usually without success. It has become such a cultural phenomenon that it has been frequently referenced, parodied, and talked about in mainstream culture. While far from the first game of its kind, Blizzard once again proved their ability to refine and capitalize on existing concepts and genres. For the next 12 years, World of Warcraft would receive new expansions that added new areas, classes, races, and revamped old content. The Burning Crusade, released in 2007, pitted players against the Burning Legion in the Outlands, beyond the confines of Azeroth. It also added the Blood Elves race and Paladin class to the Horde, and the Draenor race and Shaman class to the Alliance. A year later, Wrath of the Lich King took place in the frozen continent of Northrend, and introduced the first hero class of the game, the Death Knight. Players finally had the opportunity to confront the Lich King as well, whom they last saw years prior in Warcraft 3's expansion, the Frozen Throne. In 2010, Cataclysm unleashed Deathwing's destruction across Azeroth, reflected in-game with the biggest overhaul of content the game had ever received. Quests and areas had been changed and streamlined, attempting to make them a fresh experience for new players. 2 years later, Mists of Pandaria let players bear arms as the Pandaren and pursue the monk class. It also introduced pet battles, a Pokemon-styled system that used the game's numerous vanity pets. Finally, 2014's expansion, Warlords of Draenor, took place in an alternate universe of the Orcs' homeland. In addition to the new area and time-traveling story, this expansion introduced numerous PvP changes to the game. That same year, Blizzard surprised many Warcraft fans with the release of Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft. Not only was it a free-to-play game, but it used Warcraft's lore and setting in the form of a collectible card game. Two players duke it out with their decks and try to get each other's health down to zero. The player's chosen class offers not only access to unique abilities, but special cards as well. Hearthstone has since become yet another worldwide sensation for the Warcraft brand, with over 50 million players and various cash prize tournaments. On August 30th, 2016, the next installment of World of Warcraft is due with its expansion, Legion. The Burning Legion once again threatens Azeroth, and players must learn to use artifacts and forge an alliance with demon hunters to fend off the invasion. Each player class and specialization will have a new unique artifact weapon wielded by heroes from Warcraft lore. Players will earn them through unique quests and be able to upgrade and customize their appearance. The Demon Hunter is a new hero class, the first new one after the Death Knight in Wrath of the Lich King. These powerful hunters were trained by Illidan Stormrage himself and fight the demons of the Burning Legion by using demonic powers themselves. While a WoW killer has not yet appeared, World of Warcraft numbers have been on a steady decline for years now. However, not only has the game survived more than a decade, but it still receives updates. The fact that it has lasted this long is impressive enough. But even if Legion were the last expansion, World of Warcraft has had a legacy most games can only dream of. Legion is bound to inject new life into the game, at least for a while. And as long as the game is around, stay tuned to GVMERS for all things World of Warcraft related.